At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
Since 1997, American Leadership Forum has worked to bring the region's leadership together for the betterment of our community. ALF honors individuals annually who embody the best of the organization's ideals through their values and deeds. In 2014, Sacramento attorney Joe Genshlea and consultant Susan Frazier are two of the three leaders who have been chosen to receive ALF's highest honor, the Exemplary Leader Award. Today, they join us to talk about leadership, their journeys, and our region's future. Susan, when did you first know that you were a leader?
Oh, geez. So I'm not sure I still think of myself as that. I just think of myself as someone that loves to be involved and get things done. But I do tend to step into situations and sometimes take charge and sometimes just help get things done. So I guess I've grown into the idea.
But Joe, isn't that really the essence of leadership? Stepping into things when no one else either wants to or or thinks that it's time to jump in?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think you have to be a bit of a risk taker to ever grow into leadership. You have to be willing to fail. Actually, you never learn unless you fail.
And it's about getting back up again, right?
Well, you know, you learn something when you lose. You know, when you win, you just think you're king, you know, you're never going to miss. But so it takes a few losses to get yourself straight what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, you know, I've held positions where certainly the idea is that I was the leader. And that's one definition of leadership, but that's not my internal definition of leadership.
Really, what is?
People that, so there's a position power, and then there's the kind of power that allows you to take risks, like Joe says, and help people see possibilities and help people move through things. And that's my new definition of a leader that I've grown into over time. The position power doesn't matter to me.
Overall, do you think that the definition of what leadership is or how it's most effective is evolving?
I think it's both evolving, and I don't think that there's one definition. I mean, look at the three people that were chosen for this award.
You, Joe, and Mayor Kevin Johnson.
And Mayor Kevin Johnson. We all have very different leadership styles, but yet it's all leadership. So I think that that there isn't one definition, but yes, I do think that it's evolving a lot. And so it's not what it used to be. It's not just position power. It's not just, you know, hierarchical, not just coming down from the top. It's really changing a lot.
You know, you talk about position power, and it's interesting because when I think about you, Joe, while you've been a leading attorney, not just in Sacramento, but nationally, all kinds of awards and accolades and things like that, a lot of what you're associated with regards to leadership are things that happened after 5 p.m. The conversations you've had, initiatives that you've either started or gotten involved with. How important has it been for you to, or from your perspective, that someone hold a position in order to feel like they can make a difference?
I guess I see myself a little bit differently. Life is kind of a personal event, you know, and so I've always felt that there has to be an in-person relationship to get anything done with whomever you're working with. And I started off as a lawyer, and you learn if you're the trial lawyer, you're going to be the guy in charge of the case, kind of a thing. You have to know the folks you're working with personally. You have to trust them. You have to give them their head. You have to make sure you define where they're going, and you have to keep your eye on the ball. All of which is part of, I think, any good leadership skill. So when I do the things after 5, which I've done going back for a long, long time, because this is my hometown, and you know, I just want to be involved. I take a little bit different view. I mean, if I'm on a board, some charitable board, there's a director there. The director knows a lot about what's going on, and so what in that role, you want to help. You want to be a guide kind of a thing, but you don't want to be taking over the role that the director has, kind of a thing. So it's more of a secondary spot if you're the president of some charitable organization to support the person that really is running the show. It's a little bit different.
Well, that actually sounds a lot like what you said a few moments ago, Susan, that it's not always being sort of the person out in front, but it's finding a way to kind of facilitate or create the opportunity for people to either come together or move forward on a piece of work.
Yeah, I look at it as building containers. So that's one of the skills that I think I bring as a leader, is being able to understand what a really good container looks like that allows people to come to the table in a very inclusive way. And so if you think about, let's say this table were a container and we were trying to get something done, I might think about how many chairs we needed around the table, who needed to be in those chairs, what kind of skills did they need, what kind of information did they need to really start moving together.
And when you think about your role and how you participate in the things that you're involved with, is there a particular role that you typically play, and has that evolved over time? In that some people are conveners and some people
Right.
are more directive, and
Well, certainly when I was younger, and a lot less mature, my role was to be the person who was kind of sit down and go, here's my idea and let's all go do it. But that's not my role anymore. So what I see myself as is a person who likes to start things. I like to be a catalyst for things, but it goes a little deeper than that, because what I really think that my skill set is letting people see possibilities, or helping people see possibilities, or creating the containers where possibilities can emerge. There was a project a while ago, back when I was running Valley Vision, that was kind of a precursor to the Next Economy, called Partnership for Prosperity.
now remind us what Valley Vision is.
Oh, Valley Vision is a nonprofit that does regional planning sorts of things, and Joe was one of its early leaders, and so that's where we connected very early on when I came.
And full disclosure, I'm its current chair, so.
Oh, you are its current chair. So that's perfect. So I ran that organization for a number of years, and we did this project called Partnership for Prosperity, and the way that we started, just because it was the way that made sense to me, was not with data and not with, here's what all the data leads us to. It was instead with what inspires you. And so,
Really?
yeah, we sat down with all of the economic development gurus and said, what are you excited about? Because I was looking for energy. Because if there's energy, there's movement. And so the thing that rose to the top out of all of it, there were still other initiatives, but the thing that rose out to the top was green energy. So all of the green energy things that are happening around the region all came from that early effort of us just getting all those people in the room and having them go, what a wonderful opportunity for this region. And then the data was brought in. So a really different approach to it. And so we still use the data, but start with energy, start where and get people excited about possibilities.
Start with energy.
And get people excited about possibilities. That's kind of my style.
And Joe,
when she came into Valley Vision, it was pretty new, and it was kind of a debating society, really. Jim McClatchy and Gordon Shaver and Jeannie Runyon and Lynn McCandless and Joe Coombs and a few other people. And she took over.
And you didn't do any debating at all, right?
Well, I never stopped
Counselor.
talking. I never stopped talking. That's what I do for a living. And she came in and took it over and turned it into an operating organization. She did a great job. She's really very impressive.
With the wonderful support of all of its founders.
Truly.
So, what role do you usually play?
In
all the things you're involved with,
I have to get energy. Like the thing that I have my heart in right now is foster kids, and so I'm on the board at Sierra Forever Families, and it's a wonderful organization. And it's actually ALF is the one got me in touch with foster kids. We met with the whole. My class met with about a dozen foster kids. I was in class 2, so it was forever ago. But they told us their life stories. It just tear your heart out. So like Susan was saying, you need the energy, and I've done things, most of the stuff I've done is because I really feel passionately about Sacramento and that's my motivation, SACTO or whatever it is.
What got you so passionate about foster care recently?
Well, it's not been recent. I mean, that goes back, however, what class are we in now? 17 or something?
18.
18, so 16 years ago. I never lost it. I mean, I just, I had one of the foster kids come up and spend some time in my office and stuff. And I grew up in a unit family. I lived in the same house until I was, in law school, and I only live a block away now, So I had a completely different experience in my life than they have, where they're just turned out on the street when they're 6 years old, kind of a thing. And oh my God, it's just incredible. So it just is one of those things that it energizes you. Most of the things that I've been involved in have been because of my commitment to the Sacramento community, because that's what
And just to
I feel
go
strong
back,
about.
when you talk about where you were born and where you grew up, when you were a boy, William Land Park wasn't even in existence, was it?
Well, the park was there. Yeah, the park was there. The south part of the park was still plowed fields, and on the side of
There was
Centerville
a
Road
lot of farm.
well, there was an old production works down in right where Southland Park is now. But yeah, Sacramento's grown hugely in my lifetime. And when I was a kid, it was 120,000 people here if you counted the goats.
In what you've seen over time, both of you come from very different vantage points. You're a native. You came by way of Minnesota, correct?
Correct.
There's been a lot of evolution and change that has taken place. Today, one of the words that's used a lot is regionalism, and it's how we knit, supposedly, our community together. What is it, and is it working?
So my definition of regionalism and the metrics that I would use to measure it are that if there's something going on in the region, let's take the recent focus on food, that we're a food place. If it's happening all over the region and the people that are doing it are coordinating with each other, then I think that's regionalism. And so I do think it's working. And I think it's very different than when I first came, when the early pioneers like Joe were just kind of raising the flags and waving the signage around and saying, hey, we need to do this. The water doesn't stop at boundaries. The air doesn't stop at boundaries. And so, early on, the jurisdictions did nothing together. They really didn't when I first came. One quick story is that the planners in the different things had never met. And
really?
Yeah, they'd never met. And we brought them together as the very beginning of Blueprint, so they'd never met each other. And today they're still meeting all the time through SACOG. That's regionalism.
What's Blueprint? What's SACOG? Just remind me.
The Blueprint was a regional planning project around land use and transportation that happened from between 2002 and 2004. And SACOG is the regional council of governments.
Now, Joe, you've been a little bit more critical of our performance at regionalism. What's your view on that?
Well, I mean, I think what's happened regionally has been great. I mean, we actually, back in the 90s, we went around and got most of the counties to sign kind of a partnership agreement. They were going to partner about the region and stuff. There's 23 cities and 6 counties or something. But there's 2.5 million people living here. And the Kings wouldn't be here if it was just the 500,000 people living in Sacramento. It's not a big enough market for National Basketball Association. Portland and Denver, Cincinnati, Kansas City, they're all about the same size as Sacramento, but they function as one big city. And so you get
you don't think we do that here?
I'm pretty clear we don't do that here. We don't function like a big city. We function as a bunch of cities and counties that get together and do things together, but it's not people. If you ask people where they live, they'll tell you they live in Fair Oaks, or they live in Roseville, or they live in wherever. They don't live in Sacramento.
What would you do to change that?
Well, I've
if
tried.
You were king.
I think I've pretty well struck out on that one. I mean, when I was with Tom Hobday's Sacramento Tomorrow Coalition, we were giving speeches. I was with SACTO and Al Janine, went around the community giving speeches. Then I was Valley Vision and went around the community making speeches then too. So I mean, I think that there's it's the way the Sacramento grew. It just grew in balkanized way, and so it's working a lot better than it ever did before. But people still don't think of themselves with. it's one economic community. People live in El Dorado County, work in Yolo County. People live in Elk Grove, work in Roseville. I mean, it's one big economic community, but people don't think of themselves living in a big city. And Denver just built some spectacular museum a couple of years ago, you know, and they're, of course, they control the state, and we're just a small player in California, you know. Sacramento, I mean, compared to San Francisco.
So you don't consider like the arena deal and how the region came together for that?
How did the region come together for that? It was the city of Sacramento that did it.
And you don't think that anybody else participated in?
Well, I don't. Did they? I don't know. As I got it, the city of Sacramento was the be all.
But they were supported by. They were supported by
financially.
Well, not financially, but the politicians and community groups and all that. So you don't consider that a regional
I think that
project?
I think that the Kings should have been supported financially by Placer County and El Dorado County and Yolo County and Sacramento County. They're all going to go to the games. You know, it's an asset for the whole region. And I mean, I'm proud of what happened. I mean, I think it's great that they got it done. But if it had been done really regionally, so everybody ponied up, it would have been easy to finance.
So I think one of the things that's a countercurrent to regionalism, and I personally think it's healthy, and it makes it hard for people to say I'm from here and I'm from there, is the push towards local. So I think it's a really healthy trend, and it builds community, and it creates neighborhoods, and it creates a place that people can connect in a much more personal way than they can to a region or a big city. And so the trend towards local is really pushing people to say, I'm from Loomis, because suddenly Loomis has this gathering place that's become very delightful to be in downtown Loomis. And rather than saying I'm from here or I'm from there. And so I think that there's kind of these two things pushing against each other, but I think it's a healthy mix. And we're a ways getting to it before the money will come, but at least the cooperation is there.
The 5 boroughs of New York City are all counties of New York. The Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn's, Manhattan, and Staten Island. They're all separate counties. And people say they're from Brooklyn or from the Bronx or from Manhattan or whatever, but they all think they're from New York City. Okay? I mean, you can be local and still know that you live in New York City, you know? So that's what hasn't happened here.
Right. It does happen if you travel. You go someplace, anybody, they say, I'm from Sacramento.
So
but you have to get to New York before you start saying you're from Sacramento.
Well, you're not from Sacramento, and you started out, well, you're a consultant today and you're building containers and things like that. You started out, it appears, in a pretty traditional route, general manager of a power company, CEO of a couple of enterprises. When did you decide to get off of the command and control circuit and do something different?
It's kind of a long story, but I think often in people's lives, just to get a little bit personal here, and often in people's lives, if you're doing something that isn't really coming from your heart, that it tends to fall apart. And so what I was doing just fell apart. And it's too long of a story to get into here, but it just fell apart. And so I had to come up with, what is it that I really am about in the world, and what do I want to put into the world? I had the space to do that.
You can't squeeze the story into a few seconds?
The short version just doesn't do it justice.
All right, that'll be.
I got fired from my job.
That's okay.
I don't think you guys ever knew. But you know, it really got my attention because there was, you know, I was a rising star. Everything that I did worked, and suddenly it just fell apart.
Well, let's stay with this for a second. When something like that happens, and that happens to all of us.
It happens to a lot of people.
It happens to all of us. What happened to? How did you bounce back?
I think that's where you have to go and get to your internal strength, because I totally remember saying, what are my building blocks, and what from who I have been in the world do I want to pull forward, and what do I want to leave behind? And so interestingly enough, one of my current sort of things that I'm working on is bringing some stuff that I left behind that I probably shouldn't have completely. I tend to have a real back of the room style of leadership, where, you know, all the things are happening and all the accolades are happening and I'm hiding in the bathroom. And so So I'm trying now to figure out what does humble look like when you still own your own power, which is a really different thing. And because I like humble, but I'm trying to figure that piece out for myself. So I think it's a constant journey if you're a person who wants to continue to grow as a person. And for me, that journey really didn't start until I lost my job and got toppled off the little tower I was on, and I had to really reevaluate. So if there's anybody that's in that space, just say, hooray, there's good things coming, because I do think it comes.
That's what I said earlier. I mean, losing is part of life, and it's
Right.
the way you learn. I mean, that's how you figure out what's
Was there
going on.
one experience that really sort of impacted or transformed you along the way?
I think actually going away to college did, really. That's a big change for me. I figured out that I really wasn't very smart. That's a sobering thought when you go through high school and you know it's not that hard. And you get to university and all of a sudden it's really hard. You realize there's folks around that are just 10 times as smart as you are, and you're never going to get there. You know, that's a big learning experience. So.
You know, we talk about our learning experiences, and along the way, both of you got involved in the American Leadership Forum. And their motto, which is Unite, Strengthen, and Serve, is about bringing together leaders and really helping them along in their leadership journey. What did that experience mean for you?
Oh, I thought the ALF year was terrific. I mean, I bought the thing hook, line, and sinker. I mean, it was a wonderful experience, wonderful people. I thought the program was great. I ended up being chair of ALF for a couple of years after that. So, I mean, it was eye-opening for me.
How was it eye-opening?
Well, the diversity aspect of your class is real. I mean, there's people there from all kinds of different places, different life experiences and attitudes, and you spend a lot of time with them, and all of a sudden you're exposed to really getting to know somebody. That's what I was saying earlier. Life's a personal experience. You know, you really never know anybody until you meet them in person. You know, you can text all you want to or email all you want to, but you'll never know them until you meet them. You know, well, you really got to meet another 22 people or 3 people. You know, and it was just a great experience. It was very eye-opening for me. I learned a lot.
And you not only went through the program, but you're involved in providing some of the curriculum today. How did the experience impact you at where you were at the time?
Well, the actual class when I went through as my first year class was actually the first full year that I was in Sacramento.
Really?
And so imagine knowing no one and then suddenly knowing the entire ALF network. So it was completely the most invaluable thing ever.
And it's a collection of leaders.
It's a collection of leaders, but really diverse. And if you think about what I was trying to do, because my first job when I was here was Valley Vision, the success of Valley Vision depends on being able to set the table for any given project with a diversity of opinions and people so that the thing doesn't fall apart later. And I had no network, and so suddenly to know people and to have access to people and then to know them, I used to say that ALF was turned a handshake into a hug. So to know them not just as a professional, hello, you know, we're networking today, but to know them as people and to know them as real authentic, their more authentic selves, really gave me just a huge boost in my work. But so that's my first year, but the real learning for me in ALF has come from my later work.
From your later work?
That was the stuff I'm doing now. Doing the teaching and being with the classes and experiencing the current curriculum, which is different than it was when I went through, and really you can't do it without changing yourself. So it's very.
Let me throw something at both of you on the ALF experience. And again, ALF is this is a chapter in this region of a national organization that brings together leaders from different walks of life, very diverse and all that. One of the things that I've noticed is that there's a great pollination that happens not only within classes from all these people from different walks of life, but between classes where it is that these little swarms happen where people collaborate on different initiatives and things that they want to get done. How important, in our final moments, how important do you feel that ALF is to knitting the community together in order to be able to approach problems?
I personally think that it's one of the best tools that we have in the region right now, because you can meet someone and get to know them a little bit, but it is nothing like understanding who that person is and how they really want to show up in the region and supporting them in that. So what's happened is you see boards and organizations and people trying to get things done stocked with ALF people, that the people who aren't in ALF go, whoa, they said that? Because you're willing to take more risk, you're willing to be more vulnerable, and to offer more of yourself into the conversation if you've been through ALF and if you're sitting in what you consider a safe container. And so these containers, these little containers, as you say, are being built all over. The network it's alive. It's wonderful.
All right. And we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you both. Congratulations to you both. Congratulations to Mayor Johnson as well.
Yes.
And that's our show. Thank you to our guests, and thanks to you for watching Studio Sacramento. I'm Scott Syphax. See you next time right here on KVIE.
At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
All episodes of Studio Sacramento, along with other KVIE programs, are available to watch online at kvie.org/video.